You deserve a tech career you love, coworkers you can count on, innovation you're proud to build. If you're ready to change the world through technology, explore a career at Cox. Make a real impact in engineering, development, cybersecurity, and more, all while experiencing work-life balance, flexible work options, and great benefits. Visit cox.career/tech to find a job you love today. That's cox.career/tech.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit a million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.
No music, no intro. Oh man, only the Saints. Another episode. Hashtag Saints Twitter podcast. Our first episode of recording a Week 1 recap against the Saints outing against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and we can't even talk about the game to start. Ryan, do you know why? Because in typical Saints fashion, star wide receiver Michael Thomas, he gets nicked up. There's a minute 30 left in the game. I got questions for Sean. I got some questions for Sean. I don't know why MT and AK was in the game at that point. I don't. I get that our luck, if you just look at like the Minnesota Miracle, whatever, that's a different scenario. But that game was in hand. So it was just very confusing to me that Michael Thomas was in the game to begin with. But he gets some friendly fire. He walks off to the sideline. And as soon as I was watching, the preview for Sunday Night Football, and Mike Florio said that Michael Thomas was not letting the training staff look at his ankle, I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah.
And so I guess some tests came back. It was it was worse than they initially thought. So he has a high ankle sprain. He's going to miss time. There's no certain time frame of how many games he's going to miss, how many weeks. But one narrative I want to shut down right now. All right, with the Saints Twitter, please stop with the silver lining is that the rest of the guys got to pick. Stop. The rest of the guys have to pick it up, and so then when Mike comes back, he is arguably 1, 2, 3, doesn't matter where you put him, one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, top 3, potentially top. So if you can't look at how the Saints played on Sunday offensively and just think that everything's going to be all right. It's a concern. The next slate of games isn't terrible opponent-wise. The Saints will probably be favored in a lot of them, except maybe the Packers game. But that said, a good point that I think Joey Plague, shout out to Joey Plague, made as well, is that there's no divisional games. There's no games against any divisional opponents, in this next upcoming 4 or 5 week strand or slate before their bye week. But it's just I don't know, man. I want to talk about the draft again. Just disappointed.
Right, bring it back, man. Bring it back to the whole season. It's reality. And then of course it's Saints have the best roster, blah blah blah, and then boom, here's reality. Here's reality. It was somebody who pretty much never gets hurt, has missed one game in his career. He's going to be out for a couple of weeks, which, if you want to look on the bright side, it's not like he's going on IR, out for the season. We don't know what it is. They keep reporting high ankle injury, not high ankle sprain. So I don't know what that means, but it's something that seems like it's going to be week to week. Mike Triplett and some of the other local beat writers reported that it's not really confirmed that he's going to be out multiple weeks, but it's kind of looking like a week to week thing. So we'll see. We'll really know probably tomorrow if he goes on short term IR, which would only be for 3 weeks. So that'll really tell us everything. If he doesn't go on IR this week, that means they're kind of going to take it a week at a time,
Right.
to see how just to see how he does after a week or two. So, but it sucks. Like people, I mean, Michael Thomas is one of, you can argue where he is as a wide receiver in the league, but he's the most important player on the team. You could argue outside of Drew Brees, of course, because that's the quarterback, but outside of quarterback, he's the most important player. He's the the main ingredient to the gumbo. You know what I'm saying? He's like, he makes the offense go. You know what I'm saying? Like he is who the defense is. When the defense coordinators meet with their defense on Wednesday, they start with him. You know what I'm saying? It's like he's that dude. So missing him is just going to be a massive blow, especially when you consider the Saints offense, what we saw this past week,
Ooh,
is still trying to.
you.
It's just, it's just. I mean, you probably watched the game closer than I was able to because I was just out and about. But I just went back and watched some of the condensed version, and it was just off. Like, I mean, Drew Brees, Sean Payton, everybody will tell you, like, it was not their best game at all. Even though they put up 27 points on offense, it just wasn't their best effort. It was off. It was, it wasn't cohesive. It was, it just everything felt, nothing felt right. Even Michael Thomas, they clamped him down. Probably the best I've seen anybody clamp Michael Thomas down.
Yeah, man, it was impressive.
Like,
Todd,
you could tell they focused, and they were prepared to take care of Michael Thomas. I would love to know exactly what they did, but it seemed like they just bracketed him a lot and really. And if you notice, the refs, even though they called a few flags, they were kind of just letting guys play this week. So they were able to get real physical with Michael Thomas and kind of take him out the rhythm of the offense.
yeah, it's. I mean, that's a lot of credit to talk. I mean, we'll get into this when we start breaking down the game, but
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to be. I know Sean Payton thrives in crisis, which is now a Ryan exclusive quote, trademark. But like if the offense is going to be successful, like everyone has to be better with MT not playing. Like the whole, like from Sean, who is play calling, to the offensive line, to Drew, like everyone has to pick it up because like I'm not, and we've seen Sean before. Like Sean and Drew has been able to do a lot with a little. We've seen that. And so I think the timing of it kind of is fortunate in terms of no divisional round games, things like that.
right.
And then it comes to, then you have Manuel Sanders probably slides over. Now he's the number, kind of de facto number one. And then Traquan, who had a good game in terms of just blocking. Like his blocking on Sunday was phenomenal. Like he has to, and he actually outsnapped Emmanuel Sanders, because I think the game plan a lot was running the ball on Sunday, but he's gonna have to come up big time. And then number 3 is gonna be, it could be Benny Fowler. It's I don't know if it's gonna be one of the rookies, but someone's gonna have to be elevated and pick up the slack. I would say in an ideal situation, you hope that some of the snaps and some of that funneling maybe could go to a player that they selected in the draft, like Adam Troutman, but he didn't get that many. He didn't get that many snaps. on Sunday, but you drafted a tight end in the third round. Like
Right.
he gotta go to work at some point. Like
Right. Yeah. So that's the hope. I mean, you're not going to replace Mike Thomas. You just can't do it. But you just kind of hope you could get pretty good positive offense from Traquan, from Emmanuel Sanders, from, if that's Benny Fowler, who they brought back up, and the tight ends. I mean, just looking at the next matchup, this is a sneak peek. The Raiders linebackers aren't that great. So, that's a prime opportunity for your tight ends to work, for, getting the running backs involved in the pass game. So it's going to be, you still have to kind of rewind the clock back to, kind of the early Saints days when it was just kind of, move the ball by committee. Nobody's really number one, but just kind of spread it around, and get the ball to your playmakers as best as you can. It's going to have to be one of those type of things instead of just Michael Thomas winning.
And it's also too, like, he had it, he scored 2 touchdowns and he had some good plays, but like AK is going to earn his worth. This is a time where AK is going to have to 100% earn his worth. And I don't, the good thing is he showed that he's healthy.
Right.
So I don't doubt that he can, but it's going to be interesting, man. And I could have seen, it can't happen now that the 49ers signed him, but it wouldn't have shocked me if they looked at interest in someone like Mohamed Sanu, who was out there with the agency, temporarily. Obviously, not now. He was signed by San Francisco today. But it's one of the things where it's interesting. It's interesting to see, like, when you're like us, like, it's just interesting to see from just a football standpoint and how it's going to look. But if you're a Saints fan, I'm trying not to downplay it, in terms of, I think it's concerning. Like, we're not going to be over here it's not, no, it's, he lost a great receiver. Like, it's highly concerning.
Yeah. It is concerning. Like, this could cause games.
Yes.
That loss could cause games. But you just, if you're a Saints fan, you just have to have faith in your coaching staff and, how deep the team is. And, maybe it'll come down to not being an offensive-driven win. Look, pretty much like last week where, your defense and special teams just play a huge part in keeping your team at a level to where, you don't need to score, even though they put up decent points this past week, but you don't need to score 45, and throw the ball for 350 or 400 yards to win. Drew Brees had 160 yards last week.
It was wild.
That would have been a loss any other, prior to the last 2 years or so, that would have been a loss. If you would have saw Drew Brees with 160 yards, like, oh man, what happened? But the way the team's built now, you can win like that.
So let's get in. Week 1, man. Let's get into it. So I obviously I did see more of the game. I know you were out and about, living the good life. Had the game on in the pool at the resort, on the big TV, just living. So I'm not gonna go, but just from memory, I just remember just the start of it, and it went very similar to how, shout out to our guy Eric, who that homo. Like, they didn't get a 3. Like, the Saints came out on offense first. They didn't go 3 and out. Like, they moved. I think they got maybe 1 or 2 first downs, and then the offense stalled around the midfield, punted, and here comes Tampa Bay, just methodical drive. Some defensive penalties, and Tom Brady scores on a quarterback sneak, and Tampa's up 7-0, and it's like, of course, this is how the season starts. Like, why would it be? Here we go again. Like, why would it be?
You can't start like that, huh? Like, the Saints just can't start like that and just give us that. They can't just start with a great methodical offensive drive and cap it off with 7 points and just have us sitting there like, they just can't do it.
Can't do it. So after, so the what stood out to me from jump Malcolm Roach. I kept like
Mm.
I don't we can't see players play, but what we can do if you're a fan is you can just read and pay attention. And everything I was reading in training camp, like his name just kept popping up, and I was like, man, there's something there. And he had about 3 or 4 plays that I was like, who the fuck is this?
Mm.
He was just terrorizing, getting tackles for loss, like just knifing into the backfield, made Shy Tuttle an inactive. Like I don't know.
Mm.
It was a limited sample size, but I know that what I saw from '97, and I even reached out after the game. I had to ask Scott. Shout out to our guy Scott Wright at Draft Countdown. I was like, "Yo, how did Malcolm Roach go undrafted? Like this doesn't make any sense." And he said Texas, University of Texas just misused him. Like they didn't use him properly on the defensive line, and
Mm.
he killed it in interviews, killed it in all-star games, and killed it in his workouts. And I think the Saints have something in him. And I'm trying to, temper expectations down, but I think they truly do have
Yeah.
something, have something.
I mean, but they've shown it. They've shown it over the years. They've been able. I don't know what happened, what scout they hired or whatever, but I mean, for the longest, we was Sid Ellis, and I mean, we couldn't get
Man,
a decent defensive tackle to save
save
our
our
lives. But now
save our
they just
lives, man.
find, bro, and now they just find like a guy like every year they'll find like one guy. He might not have like the greatest career, but they'll find one guy that just like can play and is pretty good. You know what I'm saying?
It's wild, man. It's wild. But just off the top of my head, the things that just stuck out. Um, the the secondary. We said they were going to get tested against Tampa Bay. We kept reading secondary was ahead of the offense all training camp. You take away that first drive, and like this defense, I say this without hyperbole. As long as I've been a Saints fan, I have never seen a Saints defense like this. Like I just haven't, bro. Like it is utterly insane how good they are defensively. If you read, they know what their strength is. Their strength is in the secondary. Their strength are their defensive backs with Janoris, with Marshawn, with Chauncey Garner-Johnson, Malcolm Jenkins. Like that's what their strengths are. And so when that's your strength, you got to get them on the field. And so they played basically sub nickel dime is their new base.
Right.
And a point that I made is when teams go nickel, they go dime, and they have so many defensive backs on the field. As an offense, your counter to that is that there's all these little guys on the field. We run the ball. Like they're not going to be able to stop our running because they're the smaller guys on the field, because there's a combination of the Saints defensive line being so stout against the run, and all their defensive backs love to play run support. You can't run the ball on them, even when they're in nickel and in dime. And it's so impressive.
It's very impressive.
It's so impressive to see. It is. At times I was like, man, they had me in awe. Like we've been complaining about not having linebackers, not having cornerbacks, and just to have it's wild.
Just
man.
seeing the speed.
Yes.
Guys being able to move around. And I mean, come on, man. Y'all Saints fans, y'all watch Curtis Lofton and Scott Shanley, and God bless them, man. Like God bless them. But like this is a new day, man. Like you got guys who could play in space, which is something that just killed the Saints for so long. We didn't have anybody that could really play in space. And now you just have multiple guys. I mean, you watch Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and how he is able to just set up and break down and not overrun and just make the tackle. Just get downhill real fast and secure the tackle on big running backs, on Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones. These guys are big. And him as a guy, he just, he has that nose for it. Same for Malcolm Jenkins. Lattimore has always been like a good willing tackle as a DB. So it's like, it's the perfect setup if you're going to be a predominantly nickel and dime defense, and your offenses are going to counter with that run game. So it's kind of this perfect setup.
It is. It is. Just again, there's not like a certain format, Trigger Trey. So there was all like the hand wringing, like, oh, 2 first not playing. Trigger Trey was like, 2 first who? So
Trigger Trey was smoking that boy, man.
Donovan Smith got worked.
That boy was getting worked, man. Like legitimate, like it wasn't like, oh, they forgot to block Trey Higgins or not. He was like literally beating his tackle and getting on Tom Brady, who's notorious for releasing the ball as fast as anybody. You know what I'm saying?
And Bruce Arians tried to throw a little shade at Trey, post game, saying like, oh, like, Donovan Smith has to play better, like that, like that's the least worried guy or whatever, about their line that we were worried about. Listen, put some respect on Trigger Trey's name, all right? Like, come on now. And he was for where he was drafted, and the production that the Saints have been able to get out of him. Man, what a pick!
Oh yeah, like that's one of the forgettable picks of that great 2017 draft, and just for him to be able to continue to contribute and come in, when 2 first is injured or whoever is injured, and come in and just give you quality pass rush. Like, man, you gotta, that's what makes great teams. The great teams have those second and third guys that can come and do that. So yeah, I mean, shouts out to Trigger.
So, and just something that I also noticed too is there, and I tweeted this a couple of days ago. There are things that Malcolm Jenkins did in the game that you just couldn't have Von Bell do when he was the strong safety. As soon as LaShawn McCoy came in, so there were a lot of plays, not a lot, but there were a few plays where LaShawn McCoy came in. He got shifted out to wide, and Malcolm Jenkins smartly goes and covers him man to man, and he's communicating with the rest of the defense like, yo, I got him, you got who you got, and you wouldn't have, like, Von Bell just couldn't do that. Like,
right.
And just the versatility that he brings is huge. It's huge.
It's impressive because just seeing how he's grown up. I mean, we drafted him in 2009, the Super Bowl year. He was impressive that year as kind of a nickel. He was a nickel cornerback, and just to see his growth, he had like a great second year as a deep safety, and then it was just kind of mixed bag. Caught up with the Saints defenses, where just he would miss some tackles, take some bad angles sometimes. We all left us wanting more. Sean Payton felt the same because he let him go to the Eagles and took paid Jarsberg, made him the highest paid safety that year. And just to see his growth as an Eagle, go on and bring them to the Super Bowl, and like he was shining in that Super Bowl game too. I never forget the hit he put on Brandon Cooks and just took him out. You know what I'm saying? And all the Eagles beat writers, when he left, like, they were pissed. They were lighting the Eagles up when they let Malcolm Jenkins go. And, for them to just bring him back and just provide that missing chess piece that was needed for the Saints defense, just that leadership, which, Von Bell, he provided some leadership too, but just that experience and depth of knowledge and Malcolm Jenkins, he's not scared to face Tom Brady. He's not scared to face whoever. He's faced them all. You know what I'm saying? Right. So this is just it's a walk in the park for him. So just having him, and it's not like he's there as your starting free safety. He's just there as that chess piece because we have Marcus Williams. We have, we have Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, stuff like that. So he's just a chess piece that's just there to make sure everybody's together. So, I mean, that's just I think he's going to pay dividends, man. Like, when they signed him, I was kind of like, oh, well, I was like, well, that's interesting just to bring him back. But, when you see that vision come to fruition, it's like, yeah, that makes 100% sense.
It does. And I'll be honest, like, I was critical of it.
Me too. Yeah.
I like Von Bell, and Malcolm had some down like the last 2 seasons, but especially his last season in Philadelphia, wasn't that good.
Right.
But in context, shout out to Saints pro scouting department. Like potentially, like maybe Malcolm didn't have a good year in Philly because his corners were ass, and
Yeah.
he was asked to do too much or whatever, and it happens. And those are sometimes like things that we don't see. But now he has 2 stud cornerbacks, and that's a huge difference. And speaking of them, shout out to Marshawn, who at times notoriously, not a little too engaged, first couple of games in the season,
Yeah.
he came out, I don't, quote unquote hurt, not hurt, whatever you want to say. Mike Evans was in Slidell. Like you couldn't find him. He was in Slidell, bruh. Couldn't find him. Zero, like the first catch came like a minute 30 left in the game. And here's the thing, and I read this on Twitter, and I wish I could give credit and props to who said it. But the Saints, they don't have a cornerback 1 and a cornerback 2. They have legit number 1 corners playing on both sides of the field. That is
right.
Huge. The play that Janoris Jenkins made. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I mean, and you saw it in Tom Brady's eyes. You saw it in his play. It was so frustrating. You saw it in Mike Evans. Like Mike Evans, when he has to line up and look at 23 across from him, he's looking at a dude taking his money. Like this dude taking my money. You know what I'm saying? And that's why he's so frustrated. That's why he wants to fight every time, because he can't do anything. You know? So I mean, I can't imagine how frustrated it is. And I love it, man. Like them fighting and all that. I love it because you could just tell, like it's personal between them two.
Man, we said it on the preview show. They hate each other. They cannot stand each other, bro.
It's real. Like most players, like, yeah, they bat on the field, but afterwards, they exchange jerseys and, it's all good. Nah, not them.
Nah.
Not Sean and Mike, man. They can't stand each other, man. Like, nope.
And so here's what I saw that I think one of the most impressive things in the game was, well, we'll talk about the pick 6, but what Tampa Bay tried to implore a lot, and this is just from memory because I'm sorry. So if you're listening to this podcast, if you're expecting both either Ryan or I to go and break down like the all 22, stop it. Like you can go listen to another show for that. Like I don't have the time to break down football that intently, but what I can tell you from what I saw is that Tampa Bay tried to utilize Chris Godwin, a lot in the slot. And when he motioned in the slot, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson was with him. And that's like that was a worrisome matchup the more, when I saw it, because, that's him going against essentially like a number 1, number 2 type corner. And usually Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, when he's guarding the slot, he's guarding like maybe like a slot receiver or whatever. But that's like him essentially going against a number 1, and he played so well against Chris Godwin. Like it's just it's crazy how good the secondary is. Like the read that Jackrabbit Jenkins made on the out that Tom Brady threw that was late, boom, gone. Like Eli Apple's not making that play.
No. I mean, how rare was it for us to get pick sixes at all? And just to, I guess it was kind of weird just watching the Saints game with no fans. I mean, because a play like that would have been like,
bruh,
the dome
would have been rocking.
It had chopper style blast. I mean, it would have been man, you know what I'm saying? Like, it'd have been wild, but, it was just kind of like watching. It was like, oh, sweet, a pick six,
Yeah.
And it's kind of crazy where we are right now. You get a pick six on Tom Brady, who's somebody who just doesn't throw those things a lot. You know what I'm saying? So, that was huge, man. And shout out to Jack Rabbit. He looks ready. He looks ready to go. He played well. Scott Miller got him like maybe once or twice, but overall he just manhandled his side. Same for Lattimore, and just like we talked about, the middle of the field was going to be where the game was played, and Tom Brady didn't look comfortable for 4 quarters. Like, he never looked comfortable. And look, you could blame that on no preseason because Drew Brees didn't look comfortable or great either. So you can blame that on preseason. Both of those are older quarterbacks that really need precision timing and anticipation. And in a short off season, that's not something you really build. But you wanted to see our defense take advantage of that. So for them to do that, it's promising because they can only build on top of that, barring that they stay healthy and everything like that.
Yeah, absolutely. My biggest complaint from the defense, although I feel like we're not giving. And here's the scary part, Ryan. Marcus Davenport didn't play. Zach Bond, third round pick, can rush the passer, can play linebacker, adds more speed to the defense, didn't play. Like, that is, and just the thought went through my head, after the game was over. I was like, what I just saw, and I know it's over and done with, but could you have ever imagined Clowney in this defense, bruh? Like, my God. Like, anyway, the biggest complaint, like, even seeing Alex Anzalone, like, there was a play where he just got his run stop that just, like, he was just there. And, like, the running back had nowhere to go. And I'm like, man, just him being healthy adds so much to the defense. And we talked about this too, like, just the speed that it brings and just seeing him be healthy and he didn't get hurt, which is, like, I know it sounds bad to say, but
yeah.
My biggest complaint of the defense, though, and it's just so annoying when it happened. I don't know what Dennis Allen, like, after the pick six, they come back out, the momentum. I'm sorry, Patrick, hate me if you want. Momentum had swung completely Saints' way. This man is sending Marshawn on a cornerback blitz. Leaving Mike Evans, who had been shut down the whole game,
on Marcus Williams,
putting and I don't even some guy was arguing me on Twitter today saying it wasn't that bad of a call. When you're putting your free safety against the opposing wide receiver number one, and he's on a fly route, that's putting your safety in a bad position. That's bad coaching. Like,
it's funny because Dennis Allen is the mirror image of Sean Payton.
yes.
Like, sometimes you just do too much. And I know what he was thinking. He was like, well, Tom Brady's expecting me to keep Lattimore in coverage. So if I'm going to send him on his corner blitz, he's not going to expect that. And all I need is Marcus Williams is to squat on this route and he'll be fine. But this is Tom Brady. Like, this is Tom Brady, okay? Say what you want about it. This is Tom Brady. He's seen it all. As soon as he read that, he's like, okay, here's my chance to hit Mike Evans for a big play. Like, as soon as he saw it, and he launched that stuff.
Yeah, he did.
You know what I'm saying?
And
even though he didn't catch it, he at least got a PI.
And it eventually led to a Tampa Bay touchdown to OJ Howard. And then like, I felt like it's like these motherfuckers are right back in the game because Dennis Allen it was frustrating. I was just like, really right now is that when you want to call that? So DA, like, I know you feeling yourself sometimes. I get it, but like, whatever's working, just let it work, bro. just let it work,
man.
You don't gotta do nothing. So now we gotta flip over to the other side of the ball. Oh boy.
Yeah, man.
Big yuck.
And they put up 27 points, which is just crazy. But that's the standard they set. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean they put up 27 points, but like we know, like it was not a pretty
Yeah.
27.
No, it wasn't that at all.
Um, and I know people like there's some people worried about Drew. Whatever. What I tweeted a couple of days ago is that game felt to me very similar to the Vikings playoff game. The only difference was there's two big differences. One, our defense is a better defense than it was in the playoff game. Like in the playoffs they tried to hold off the Vikings as long as they could until they just couldn't. Like they just broke. Um, our defense now, talent wise, depth wise, what have you, is just deeper and it's better. Two, Tampa Bay tried to establish a running game that just was not there. Minnesota was able to, they got Dalvin Cook going that whole entire game, but offensively, I felt like it was like a mirror image, because the same things that plagued them in that playoff game seemed to be rearing their head again. Inside pressure, and we talked about it. We talked about on this podcast that Tampa Bay front seven got some dogs in it.
Dogs.
And that's why, like, I know people were thinking like the Saints were gonna just roll out and just put points on the board. They got dogs, bruh. Like Devin White, like he made it his personal mission to make sure that Alvin Kamara did not get going in the entire game.
His personal mission. Levante David, like I'm just so like he's the new Thomas Davis.
Yes.
Like, he's just always there. I mean, he was blowing up AK, he was blowing up Taysom. He got a sack on Drew Brees. Like I was like, Drew, how did you not see that? Like it was just, I mean, it was tough. It was a tough out. It was a tough out for the offense. And I see, like I was listening to a lot of national media, and it's week one overreaction, and everyone tries to, just kind of paint a picture for the whole season, depending on what they saw in week one. And it's okay. Drew Brees doesn't have the arm anymore. Greg Rosenthal pointed out that the offense is now
very condensed.
just a condensed version of what it used to be. So everything's going to be short, and it's all going to be about managing Drew Brees' arm strength and stuff like that, which I think there is some semblance of truth to that. Drew Brees, his arm just isn't what it used to be. It just isn't, But that said, it's still, to me, I think it's less about the arm and more about that Drew Brees can't move like he used to. So when he is confronted with pressure, it's not going to be good. Like he used to be one of the greatest at just picking up a blitz. There's a free rush or something, and he get the ball to the guy, boom, boom. But I just think, as age catches up with him, I think you don't see that. Which is part of the reason why they bring Taysom in, because he's somebody that can move and can create. So I think that's just a part of the equation with Drew Brees now. And I don't think, his arm is affected too much. He made that nice throw to Jared Cook. He made two good throws. But he still needs the time because has to play with anticipation. He always has. That's not new. But it has to be an anticipation through. So he needs the time to wind up, and he needs the chemistry with everybody to make sure they're going to be where they need to be, which wasn't really the case this past week. Not to mention the play calling.
Oh.
So it just was all off kilter. So I wouldn't overreact too much to the offense. Week one, you just let it play out and see how they do. But and then again, this whole Mike Thomas thing kind of throws a wrench into that because, he's just such a major part to the offense. So, Drew Brees and them, they're going to be really forced to kind of just really develop that chemistry on the fly and get it going. Because right now, Drew Brees, he's taking off on Thursdays. All through camp, he took off on a Thursday and a Friday. So, these things are kind of expected, and this is what you deal with an older quarterback. So it's going to be interesting.
It is, and I said I said if Drew looks that bad and he has protection and like a clean pocket and it's looking that bad, then then there's some questions that we got to start, like that conversation has to start, like, but everything just appeared off, like even like there was a play where AK was open like on the right side of the field and
Yeah.
Drew just missed him, just
Just missed
flat
him.
out missed
He
him.
wasn't accurate. He wasn't accurate this game,
And
which is just rare. Like you don't see that from Drew.
you don't. And I think here's the thing. Both it's funny because both Drew and Tom had very similar games, except Drew didn't turn it over. Although his pass to Emmanuel Sanders, I don't know what the hell Drew was thinking with that one. Like I had the Eagles pass to Ted Ginn feeling all over again. Like
What are you doing?
What are you doing, Drew? Um, but like Drew over the last couple of years, I've noticed that when Drew gets pressure up the middle and he starts taking hits, he gets rattled. Like he gets rattled and he just gets off. Now, speaking of got fucking Vikings again, the first time we played them in the playoffs, well, not the first time, but when we played them in the playoffs for the Minnesota Miracle game, same thing. That first half, they was on his ass. Offense couldn't get anything going. And that second half of the game, to me, is probably one of the best Drew Brees' performances, just in considering on the road playoffs. He locked in and went to man. I still remember. I remember talking about that fourth down play pass that he hit to Willie Snead. Ooh, ice water, just in a zone. And so that's why, like, but I see now that I think it's harder for him to shake off, like, when he gets rattled. Like, he shook it off in the second half. He came back and played great. Now, like, Drew can't, I don't know what it is, man, but he can't shake it. Like, you start getting at him early and he gets that inside pressure and his mechanics, like, it's off. And I think, so the offensive line has to play better. I know that, when your first round pick is supposed to come in and solidify your offensive line and he's not playing, that throws things off. Like, they have the depth to quote unquote overcome it, but it's a significant, thing because you're counting on this rookie to improve your offensive line.
Right. And also, the running game has to get going.
Yes.
That's what really stood out to me as far as the offensive line performance. I think they did okay in pass protection, but their run defense their run offense was horrible. Some of that was the plays that Sean Payton called, but nobody got going. And I think, if you can get that run game going like it should be, like you have the talent to be, I think that'll take some of the pressure off Drew and it'll clear things up for him as far as what he's seeing from defenses.
Yeah.
But, man, like, everybody has to play better. Like, if you listen to Drew Brees' post-presser, he wasn't happy about his performance at all, and he shouldn't be. He knows he needs to play better, and I think that's going to come. It just takes time. Well, we see this pretty much every year. Like, last year against the Texans, it wasn't a great game. They won the game, and they wound up, Drew Brees put it together like a great, 1 minute, 40-second drive or whatever to win the game. But it wasn't great. It wasn't great versus the Rams before he got hurt. So, these things take time. It takes time to come together. And you have the fact that he's, in his 40s. So we're constantly asking the question. We're overanalyzing every game to see, okay, is this it? Has he kind of reached that tipping point where he falls off a cliff? And I don't know. Like, you can't answer that. Like, you just have to see it play out. But me, I think it was just kind of intersection of all these things happening as far as no preseason, going against a very good defense, developing chemistry with, the players. You got a lot of new players. I think it was just an intersection of all those things where you had the offense not look as good as you want them to look.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I I have a theory. So speaking of the running game, I do have a theory. I I get this sense that opposing defenses, especially linebackers, they have a personal mission to shut down Alvin Kamara.
Hell
Like,
yeah.
I feel that when a player gets so, and it's the same thing for Michael Thomas, he gets it too. When a player gets so hyped in the media, and not that it's undeserved, like they're great blue chip talent, but when they get all the press clippings, all their, this player's so good, blah blah blah. Nothing challenges your manhood more than basically be like, that nigga right there, I ain't having it. And I've always, so as AK's been here longer, Michael Thomas, what have you, I feel like linebackers kind of take it personal to stop him, and you see it a
Yeah.
lot. Like even like the Cowboys game, like
Yeah.
they just want to take him out, not like maliciously, but they don't want to get embarrassed, basically.
Right.
But when Latavius Murray comes in, I don't know if it's weird, but it's like this sense of like, I don't want to say like they're not trying as hard, but that same type of like veracity
Yeah.
seems to dissipate every time Murray runs the ball. Because when Murray's running the ball, like he's getting like what, 4 yards,
Yeah.
5 yards. You AK comes in, man.
They sculling out.
You know what I'm saying? So it's a weird thing I've noticed, how defenses have played the Saints running game over the years. And it's funny too, because like my analogy for Murray is, so anyone who knows me knows like one of my former jobs is, working in the adult industry, what have you. Look, Latavius has like this running style. Like sometimes when I have to watch it for work, like there's some male performers in the industry, like they just have like one speed, one, like they just pound. There's no variation. There's no special moves. Bang, 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 bang. Right. That's how Latavius is. Like he is not gonna, he's not pulling out doggy. There's no side missionary. He's just whatever the hole is, he's hitting it, and he's hitting it fucking hard. And that's it. Like that's it. But like it was just very eye-opening that, when he got in the game and he was running the ball, like he was moving it on the ground. But like AK comes in and, like you said, it's a complete sellout. It's a complete sellout to stop him when he's in the game.
Yeah, I mean, we saw that when they had Reggie Bush.
Yes.
Like every defense was like, we're going to stop Reggie Bush, and they would just, they would fly and they would do everything they could to make sure he doesn't go off. So, AK is going to get the same treatment, but I mean, they have to find a way to get that going. They have to get AK going, not just in the pass game, but in the run game. And Murray, they just can't. Like Murray is a very useful back, man. Like they need to really like lean on him, especially if they're, if they're doing a good job of taking away the run lanes for Kamara. They really need to lean on Murray because he can do it and he can pass catch too.
It's true. Man, I was giving the Saints pro scouting department props for Malcolm Jenkins. I still wish I saw what they saw in Pete. Like he had some good blocks in the game. He got he got down there on some screen passes, and he cut down one of their corners or whatever on one of our good screen passes. But there are just some plays where he, like, if you were, I don't know, back in the day, you remember they had like those cut ups, those football follies of just if like you could have a cut up of all of Andres' Pete, like just blocks, missed blocks, you just cut them up and just have them to like the soundtrack, and he would have at least 20 plus of them. Like he just makes plays where just like it's just frustrating, man. Just he overset on a play, and then it was a tackle for loss for like 6 yards. Like just
And he's on the ground. He's on the ground way too much.
A lot, bruh.
Bro, like, come on, man. Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what they thought when they gave him that big contract, but to me, it's kind of like he is who he is. Even at best, he's average. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that's just something. They signed up for a long term, man. Like, that's something they're going to deal with for the next couple of years.
I mean, again, I wish I knew what they saw, but I don't. Anything else? Offense, defense? That just kind of. Oh, and I feel remiss. Deontay Harris.
Yeah. Yes.
Just explosive, bruh.
Yes, he's exciting, man. He's an exciting player.
Just explosive. His putting the offense in good field position on his returns and punt returns. They're getting him more involved in like the screen game, and he's just every time he touches the ball, you think it may be a touchdown.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, when you look at all those pieces of the Saints offense, I know it was it wasn't a great game, but when you just look at just a few little plays here, you look at the touchdown catch by Emmanuel Sanders, you look at the screen pass by Deontay Harris, you look at Benny Fowler coming up big on special teams. You just like they have some pieces, man. Even on offense, I think they'll be all right. It's gonna be kind of tough sledding with Mike Thomas out, but when he does come back and they do get all of the chemistry together and they get, the anticipation is back with Drew Brees and Cesar Ruiz comes back, to fill that guard spot. I think the offense has potential to be really good again, man. We just can't, let's not overreact on week one. Let's just kind of see it play out. But yeah, props to Deontay Harris, man. I think he's a good pickup. And, shout out to special teams as a whole, too. Like, you had the punt, you had the field goal block. You had, nice returns from Dante. You had the fumble recovery. Those guys play solid, man. And you get good defensive special teams, you got a chance to win every game, bro.
Every one of them. When the defense is as good as hopefully the Saints defense continues to be. Like I'm not saying you got to be like the defense has to lead like the corpse of Peyton Manning to the Super Bowl like the Broncos defense did.
Right.
But like the offense just has to be good, just good. Not great, just be good. If you're good, like I think you put yourself in position to win most games. If we're speaking of the offense, we'll talk about it more when it comes to when we break down the Monday Night Football game against the Raiders. Even though we all should have been in Las Vegas, this upcoming Monday, but the Saints offense, Michael Thomas out. It's a loss. The Saints offense should be able to put up points against the Raiders defense. I mean, they just should. That's without debate. We'll break it down and we'll talk about it all in depth. But I'm just like they should be able to put up points on.
It's the perfect defense if you want to get right. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the perfect defense. You can get right against the Raiders defense. Figure out the rest later, but get your guys. You can get your guys going against the Raiders defense. The linebackers, the pass rush isn't great. Quarterbacks isn't great. So I don't know what to say. You know what I'm saying? Like we know how Drew Brees and Sean Payton has been in the past when the pass rush hadn't been outstanding. If you can't get a great pass rush and your linebackers are exploitable, it could be a long day. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's a good defense to see what they do, but we'll see, man. Like, it's gonna be interesting. Like I said, Mike Thomas is out, so they're gonna be playing a little handicap too. And then, they opening up their new stadium. Won't be any fans there, but in a new black hole in Las Vegas, so who knows? They might come out hype.
Yeah, they got the Roomba out there. So, anything else that comes to mind?
You deserve a tech career you love, coworkers you can count on, innovation you're proud to build. If you're ready to change the world through technology, explore a career at Cox. Make a real impact in engineering, development, cybersecurity, and more, all while experiencing work-life balance, flexible work options, and great benefits. Visit cox.career/tech to find a job you love today. That's cox.career/tech.
There was a time when sunlight turned the earth into a gallery, when elegant estates welcomed works of art that drew us closer and closer together. It was a captivating time. It was spring, this spring at Biltmore. Plan your visit or overnight stay so you can enjoy the marvelous works of Chihuly while every corner of Biltmore blooms. Reserve now to get spring savings at Biltmore.com.